Hey Jacob, are you eating banana?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another day of Cranio Family Vlogs, where every day in the month of September we are talking about something to do with craniosynostosis. So today, as you noticed, just like yesterday, it's another solo video. The reason being is that Katie has an immense amount of knowledge when it comes to the topic that was covered yesterday. So if you've seen that video yet, go ahead and take a look at it. It involves prenatal testing for children after you've had a child with cranio. For today's video, we are going to be answering the question about financial assistance for families who have a child with craniosynostosis. The reason this is a solo video for me is because in my current line of work, I work for an MCO that helps manages state Medicaid for the state of Virginia. So a lot of my knowledge is based on how the Virginia system works. So most importantly, you need to remember that there are two facets of things that cranio families need to look for. The first and foremost, and should be the very first thing that you do, is applying for a medical waiver for your state's Medicaid. In most cases, cranio is covered by most states through the waiver program. Waiver means that it is some kind of medical condition that does impact your daily life. This is known as a technical waiver. In order to qualify for a technical waiver, you will need a diagnosis of craniosynostosis, and you also need to have some other complications or reasons why craniosynostosis is affecting your child's life. The very best thing that you can do is the moment that you've had a chance to breathe after hearing the word craniosynostosis is reach out to your child's craniofacial team. They are already very well versed in the system, but work with them to fill out the required paperwork and submit it. Now, I also want to talk about the submission to the state Medicaid program, regardless of the state or the locale where you live. For the very first submission, we did this while we were in the NICU, right after Zoe was born. We actually submitted it within the first 6 days of her birth because we already had a very clear diagnosis and impact based on some of the other ways that Zoe is presenting. However, the county that we submitted to lost the paperwork. Now, here's the problem with this. Medicaid starts from the day that the paperwork is filed. Even though, and you will hear it time and time again, craniosynostosis is established at birth, Medicaid starts the day that the paperwork is filed. So by the county that we submitted to losing the paperwork and then making us resubmit and then making us resubmit again, since we weren't aware of how this process worked, we actually have a gap in Medicaid coverage that persists from the day of Zoe's birth throughout the first 3 to 6 months of her life. Now, this has cost us financially, and it will continue to cost us. We are still working on paying off about $60,000 of what our insurance did not cover and Medicaid was not active during. That's something that we are aiming to have paid off by the time that Zoe becomes an adult. That way she is not burdened with something that shouldn't be hers to be burdened with in the first place. So we are throwing everything we can at it. It's part of all that we do, but it is a fact of our life, and I don't want that to be a fact of anybody else's. So the best thing I can tell you is that before you submit a copy or immediately after submitting a copy, make sure that you keep a copy. Get a copy of it, put it in a nice safe place. If you send it via fax, get a copy of the transmission report from the fax machine that states what it was sent, when it was sent, who sent it, and where it was sent. That way, in the event that your paperwork gets lost, you should be able to resubmit that, and they should be able to retro anything to that date based on whatever they find. Now, every state is completely different. Every state has completely different programs. I'm not even an expert for the Virginia Medicaid program, and I work for Virginia Medicaid. However, it is so important that is your very first step and the very first paperwork that you file, because the moment that you have a diagnosis is the moment that you can start to receive coverage to help take care of your child. The surgeries that are involved with craniosynostosis are very, very costly. Insurance usually will only cover a portion of it. If you have great insurance, you're fine. But if you don't have great insurance like many other Americans, then you need to focus on how are you going to be able to adjust for the the rate that you're going to have to pay. If your insurance is only covering 80% of a $100,000 procedure, you're still going to be on the hook for a $20,000 payment. So Medicaid is a great place to start. Now, prior to me working for Medicaid and prior to my daughter being born, I always viewed Medicaid as something that I did not ever want to have to deal with. I thought that it was there for the people who needed it, and I thought that I should be able to take care of myself to make sure that I wasn't in a place to where I needed to have Medicaid. The moment that Zoe was born and the moment that we had a diagnosis, that thought and feeling went completely out the window. I knew that this was there for my daughter. It's not there because of something that I've done, but nor should she be punished for anything that she has no control over. She was born with this and she is championing through it, but she has a lot of surgeries and she has a lot of specialists that she has to go see, most of which our main insurance will not cover or only cover 20% of until we reach our top payment. So if you have ill feelings towards Medicaid, you need to push those aside. You need to file the paperwork. You need to do this for your child, for your child's future. This is going to make sure that as they grow up, they are not burdened with hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt, because medical debt follows you forever. Once you have Medicaid figured out, there's also Medicare. Now, a lot of people are not aware that Medicare has a part that is all about disability, and that does extend to children who have conditions that are either identified at birth or do have a severe impact on their daily life. This is most nobly known as SSI. Once you have the Medicaid waiver, you should apply for SSI, and what this allows you to do is further augment your income and provide medical insurance protection to go above and beyond anything that Medicaid doesn't cover. This is something that you're filing on behalf of your child, that they will eventually take over the process when they turn 18. SSI is a stopgap. It's a way to protect them. It's a monetary amount based on your household income that gets deposited for you to use towards medical expenses, for you to use towards care for your child. There's a lot of other things that are out there. There's GoFundMes and there's donation drives, and all those things are great, well and good, but the biggest things that you can do for yourself and for your child and for their future is to take a look at the Medicaid program for your state. Take a look at the waiver program, apply for it, and apply and apply and apply. Let them tell you no 1,000 times before you give up, because sometimes it's just the right number on the end of your diagnosis for your child that is needed in order to get into the waiver program. Now, down in the comments below, since I work in Virginia and I deal with Virginia Medicaid for my daughter and for myself for my employment, I'd like to hear from other people who live in other states. Is Cranio covered, and is it covered underneath the waiver program, or is it covered underneath the regular program? There's a lot of different facets to Medicaid that most people are not aware of. I have been working for the company that I've worked for the last 3 years, and I'm still getting used to it. But down in the comments below, if you're from another state and you happen to know if Cranio is covered or not, it doesn't matter if you have a child with Cranio or not, but if you happen to know if Cranio is covered, can you leave that state in the comment below and let me know what kind of waiver it is, or if it isn't covered, I'd like to know that as well. I think there's a few online research tools, but I've never really found them to be great or helpful. That's what you need to do in order to set up for financial assistance for your Cranio kid. Medicare and Medicaid for SSI. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Tomorrow we've got another video coming out. We've had a whole bunch of videos this month. It's been a great experience, but we've got some more stuff come up to round out the rest of the month. We do appreciate your guys' likes, your comments, your subscribes. They are awesome. They're fantastic. They're giving us fuel for next year. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask us for us to maybe answer either via vlog or blog, either later this year or even next year, or to write to you, you can always find out more about us and ask those questions at our blog at cranioFamilyBlog.com. We look forward to seeing you guys every single day. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. We'll see you then. See you on the other side.